umpiring's a brotherhood. Like, no matter if you work one game with a guy or you work 200 games with a guy, you're going to stay in touch with him. You're going to look after each other.
Welcome to episode 374 of Alberta Dugout Stories, the podcast. I'm Joe McFarland. It's not every day that we go behind the plate for an entire episode, but we're doing just that with a trio of umpires. But first, the news headlines, and all eyes are on the World Baseball Classic. It'll officially get underway for Canada Saturday against Colombia. They played a couple of tune-up games at spring training this week, starting with the Toronto Blue Jays Tuesday, losing 10-7. Vauxhall Academy product Adam Macko tossed a scoreless inning of relief, allowing one hit before inducing two grounders, including one for a double play against his pro team. Then it was Dogs product Matt Wilkinson's turn Wednesday against the Philadelphia Phillies, and boy did he deliver in a big way. Tugboat struck out 5 in an old-fashioned 2-inning save to help Canada to the 5-3 victory. Sticking with spring training, and it's been steady as she goes for a few familiar faces, Eric Sabrowski made his spring training debut on Sunday. The AHP Academy product and Cleveland Guardians reliever allowed one hit while striking out 2 in one inning of relief as the Guardians took the 8-3 win over Colorado. Calgary's Michael Soroka made his second start with the Arizona Diamondbacks also on Sunday, but had a rough go of things. He allowed 3 runs on 4 hits and 3 walks in an inning and 2/3 in what turned out to be a 9-6 win over Cleveland. Okotoks Dogs alum Tristan Peters has seen a steady dose of action in camp for the Chicago White Sox. He's appeared in 5 games, hitting .273 with a homer and 3 RBI in 11 at-bats. His Dogs teammate Jacob Melton is making a name for himself in Tampa Bay's camp. He's hitting .235 with 2 absolute bombs to go along with 4 RBI in 17 at-bats. Gavin Logan's spring continues to go well. He has 5 hits and 8 at-bats, driving in 2 with the Arizona Diamondbacks. And Garrett Hawkins has been dynamite out of the bullpen in San Diego so far. The bigger Saskatchewan native and Vauxhall Academy alum is 0-1 with a save and a 2.45 ERA in 4 games, striking out 6. A few familiar faces are now ranked as top 30 prospects with their respective MLB teams. Nathan Flewelling is at number 11 with Tampa Bay. Hawkins checks in at 14 for San Diego. Eric Hartman is at number 20 for Atlanta, while also at number 20 is Tim Piazentine with Toronto. And rounding it out, Avery Owusu-Asidu of Saskatoon gets in at 29 with Arizona. To the college scene we go, and our top 6 highlights from the past week include a big congratulations to Dogs alum and friend of the show, Aiden Macris. He's been named the National NAIA Baseball Player of the Week after hitting .500 with 2 doubles, 4 homers, 14 RBI, and 9 runs scored in 4 games for Bellevue University. A tip of the cap to fellow Dog Logan Rumberg, who was part of a combined no-hitter in George Mason University's 3-0 win over Lehigh. Rumberg struck out 6 in 6 innings of no-hit ball before Brent Ertl finished the job. Rumberg, for his part, was named his conference's Pitcher of the Week. What a start to the collegiate career it's been for another Dog. William Labonte has not allowed a run in 3 outings for the University of Portland, totaling 14 and 2/3. He's allowed just 10 hits, which include 9 singles and a double, and he struck out 11 in that time. Simon Baker continues to swing a hot bat at Cloud County. The Weber Academy alum hit another 3 home runs in a weekend set against Marshalltown and is now hitting .385 with 4 round trippers and 12 RBI in 13 games. Regina's Takeo Cookson was his usual self with Valley City State University over the weekend. He picked up his first win of the season with a 2-run, 3-hit, 6-strikeout performance in the Vikings' 3-2 win over Mount Marty. And Warman's Brody Gunther is off to a fantastic start with West Virginia State University. He hit his first homer of the season on Saturday night and is now sporting a .394 batting average with 5 doubles and 7 RBI in his first 11 games. Recent guest Landon Barassa has figured out what he's doing this summer. The longtime Winnipeg Goldeyes hurler and most recent Australian Baseball League Pitcher of the Year had some options available to him, but he's opted to stay with Winnipeg for the coming season. The countdown is on to the CCBC regular season. Opening day is March 20th, with Alberta's teams being on the road to start the year in BC. The first Alberta home games will happen when Edmonton Collegiate hosts Prairie Baseball Academy April 4th. The Dogs home opener happens that following weekend, as does the University of Calgary Dinos when they host the Hawks. And don't forget, our annual CCBC season preview extravaganza will hit the airwaves March 19th. And if you haven't already, make sure to head to our websites, as my latest editorial has received plenty of reaction so far. It's all about the opportunities that lie ahead for female baseball, especially with the Women's Pro Baseball League starting up a little later on this year. My take: now is the perfect time to invest in the programming, the infrastructure, and the supports to not just get girls into the game, but to keep them in it and engaged. And I hint at the potential for a female academy program to foster it in their high school years. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this topic, so drop me an email at joe@albertadugoutstories.com. I'll happily read your comments in a mailbag section of a future episode. Now on to this week's guests, and we have something completely different this week, as we have a trio of umpires in the game with three different main focuses. We'll start with Tyler Malaka. The Three Hills native now lives in Lethbridge, where he's been a fixture on the umpiring scene. His first major international event was on the 2024 Junior League World Series in Taylor, Michigan. And as we told you last week, he gets to go to the big one this year, the Little League World Series in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. We chatted with him about that opportunity and more earlier this week. Tyler, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be on the show.
You've gotten the call to Williamsport. How excited are you for that opportunity?
I don't even know if it's hit yet. It was a shocking email that I got in January, but I'm really excited to go. And I'd be lying if I said I wasn't nervous.
Walk us through the last couple of weeks, because I get the feeling you've been kind of holding on to this. Like, you knew that this was going to be coming. You knew it was going to be made official. Was it tough to keep it away from friends and family for a while?
To be honest, I didn't keep it from my family. I kept it from some friends, but I think I called one other umpire in our association right away, and then I immediately called my family. I said, "Hey, don't tell anybody." But yeah.
Very cool.
Found out in January, and then the official announcement came out last week from Little League International, and obviously everybody knows.
Absolutely. What goes through your mind when you get that email? Because I assume that's something that you're kind of striving towards, something that you want to get to at some point down the line. It's got to be a real nice feather in the cap.
Oh, 100%. I know, playing baseball growing up and being an umpire, everybody dreams of going to Williamsport. And just to get that email and to read those words saying you've been selected to umpire this tournament, it was, I still can't even put it into words.
Was it something you have to apply for, or is it something where somebody applies in your name? Like, walk us through sort of the process to get you to that point where you're getting that email.
Well, at first you have to apply through a registry saying, "Hey, I'm interested." But before you even do that, you have to work Little League Nationals, get evaluated and recommended. Then once you get recommended, you can put your name forward saying you're interested. But then it's up to the powers to be at Little League Canada and Little League International to actually say, "Hey, yeah, we want you."
Mm-hmm. Is it something where when it goes through your mind, like you and I were talking off air about this, this isn't your first Little League International experience. Walk us through the 2024 experience and maybe kind of lessons learned as you head towards this coming summer.
Yeah, so 2024, I was fortunate enough to be selected to umpire the Junior League World Series in Taylor, Michigan. And that was an incredible experience by itself. The people of Taylor treated me and all the other umpires like family, treated us really well, gave us everything we'd ever want. And it was amazing. It was my first time umpiring in the States and working with people I had never even met before. So when we showed up to that tournament, it was, "Hey, I don't know you, but we're family for the next 2 weeks." And that tournament, I don't think anything can top that, but I'm saying that because I haven't gone to Williamsport yet.
Mm-hmm. It's got to be one of those situations too, where you mentioned like your brothers and sisters for a couple of weeks. I assume you make some pretty unique relationships and friendships based off of just that short amount of time together.
Yeah, 100%. Even though it was 2 years ago, I still call some of the guys I worked with. We chat, we talk about our families, we talk about life outside the field. It's umpiring's a brotherhood. Like, it's no matter if you work one game with a guy or you work 200 games with a guy, you're going to stay in touch with him. And you're going to look after each other.
You mentioned a little bit of nerves as well, because this is the biggest stage for Little League Baseball. Does it bring that extra level of pressure, and how do you typically go about trying to maybe talk yourself through that so you can approach it as, hey, it's just another game?
Yeah, I'm feeling some pressure already about it. I think the biggest crowd I've ever umpired in front of is 15,000 people. And it's hard not to look up the stats at Williamsport, where they can hold 50,000 people at the stadium and a million people or more watching on TV. But at the end of the day, you have to tell yourself it's just another game. You have to try and block out the cameras, block out the noise, and just focus on that baseball coming in. Try to revert back to your training, back to basics of ball and runner. But it's easier said than done. So I guess we'll all see if I can do that in August.
Oh, we're sure you can. That being said, though, I ask this of the athletes a lot, is have you started to kind of put yourself into those shoes? Like, start envisioning, hey, that first time you step out on the field, hey, that first time that, the first pitch of the game, that kind of thing, to kind of just make sure you take that moment to soak it all in, because this is such a unique experience.
Yeah, I definitely have. And fortunately enough, the crew, we have to go down in May and look at the facilities, meet the crews. So I have that experience. I can soak it all in before the tournament even starts, or I can soak in most of it.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we won't have 50,000 people there in May, but I'm fortunate enough where I'll be able to soak in at least the facilities and the field and build a rapport with my crew. So it makes that first game a little bit easier, hopefully.
Is that a kind of an underrated aspect of the job to a certain extent, is just to be able to walk the field and understand, okay, here's the nuances, here's the sight lines, here's where you might lose a ball in a light or whatever the case may be, just to kind of familiarize yourself with the setting a little bit?
Yeah, 100%. It's really underrated. I teach clinics and I tell people, hey, walk around the field, get familiar with it. And you can see the look on these kids' faces where, like, no, I know this field. I know it. I've played on it. But as an umpire walking the field, you notice different things that as a player you might not notice. So
Absolutely. Looking ahead to it, I ask this as well of the athletes when they're going to take on a season or whatever the case may be, but do you have any expectations or goals of yourself heading into Williamsport?
I'd be lying if I said I didn't want the championship plate. I think every umpire at every tournament wants that championship plate. But at the end of the day, I just want to be able to walk off the field and say to myself, I did the best I could. Whether the million people watching me think that or not, it doesn't matter. As long as I can walk off the field and at the end of the day say I did the best job I could, I'd be happy with that.
It's a fantastic outlook for sure. Tyler, love getting into the baseball background. You mentioned you played the game. Take us back to the very beginning. How did you get into baseball in the first place, and who was it that turned you onto the game?
Growing up in a small town of Three Hills, Alberta, I had the fortunate opportunity to play every sport that was available to me. Volleyball, basketball, baseball, track. But baseball really stuck with me. My close family friends was my baseball coach. And he knew, just like me, that I wasn't a very good player. I was a center fielder. I was our third or fourth starting pitcher, but primarily center field. Bunt and run guy. So basically all I did was stand in center field, just like any other baseball dad, and call balls and strikes from 350 feet away and try to argue with that umpire. But at some point during my last season, my coach pulled me aside and said, hey, you aren't good. I don't think you have a future as a player, but you have a great eye, and I think you'd be a great umpire. We need an umpire for our 11U team, and it pays $40. And I told him, Coach, I just heard $40. I'm in. So grabbed the pillow from the shed, took my spot behind home plate, and just made it up as I went. But I did not care because I had $40 in my pocket. But from there, I quit playing baseball because the season came to an end. Took a baseball Alberta clinic, got certified, worked a couple more games in trios, and then eventually moved down to Lethbridge for university. And that's where I got an email from Mitch Ball saying, hey, you want to join Southern Alberta Umpires Association and make some more money. And I'm really fortunate that I took that opportunity.
Was that something that was even on your radar growing up? Was like a lot of guys now, they see the writing on the wall. They're like, hey, I know the career is going to wind down. I want to get into coaching. That seems to be the obvious next step. Did you know pretty early on that, hey, maybe there's an opportunity here with umpiring?
It wasn't even a flicker on my radar. I was just a basic high school kid going to class, playing my sports, going to the gym. My plan was to go to university, get a degree, and use that degree and work for the rest of my life. Umpiring, I didn't even know I could do what I've done with it. Like looking back on these last 8 years I'm shocked at what I've done with it. And I didn't know this. I could do any of this stuff I've done.
Very cool. When you look back on it, is there a particular moment or game or situation where you almost had to take that step back and go, okay, this is pretty cool?
Yeah. There's been a few of those, but I'd say the biggest so far is 2024 at that Junior League World Series. We had our crew assignments throughout the week. And then as we got closer to championship weekend, we knew that only 4 people could work that championship game. And those names came out. I wasn't expecting my name on there. So I looked at the international finals for my name. I didn't see my name. So I thought my tournament was done. But then everybody around me started celebrating and saying congratulations. And I looked at my name at that list and saw I was assigned to the championship plate of the Junior League World Series between Chinese Taipei and the hometown Michigan team. And I had to step back and think, wow, what did I do to get here?
That's got to be something next level too, because it's one thing to, have an international plate like that, but you've got the hometown fans kind of on your neck too. Was that a bit of a realization pretty early on too? It's like, okay, maybe I gotta step up my game even more because the level of scrutiny is just going to be insane in front of that hometown crowd.
100%. Luckily, I was fortunate enough to have a plate game for Michigan throughout the regular week. So I kind of knew their fan base a little bit. I knew their coaches, and the fan base was all the volunteers at the tournament. So I had a good, I'd say, off-field rapport with them. But heading into that game, I tried my best to block out that noise, but I swear the whole city of Taylor showed up to that game. And it was just a small field. I think like they were pulling bleachers in from everywhere. There was, I think, 6,000-7,000 people at that game, and I was like, whoa.
No kidding.
I stepped up, said play, and I was like, okay, this game's ending at some point, so
buckle up because things are going to get wild for the next 9 innings or so. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Looking back on it as well, I mean, we've talked about some of the good stuff. I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about some of the challenges. Like, what's been the biggest challenge or hurdle you've had to overcome over your umpiring journey that you're super proud of that you were able to accomplish?
I'd say last year was a big hurdle for me. So last year I decided to pack up my car and drive from Lethbridge to Ormond Beach for Harry Wendelstedt umpire school. And that was 4 weeks of living in a hotel, learning from the best umpires in the world, and trying to get into pro ball. And unfortunately, I didn't clear that hurdle. I didn't get into affiliated ball, but I did end up getting into a partner league called the Pioneer League, which is based Montana, Utah, Idaho, Colorado. And that was a big hurdle for me. I learned a lot in the summer, There's a lot of ups, mostly downs, but that's life.
Mm-hmm.
You can't learn without having a few downs. So
Is that
yeah,
what?
when you my first game of the Pioneer League, managers come up to the plate. The first manager I shook hands with was none other than Troy Percival. So I was like, okay, this is real now.
That's got to be something else for sure. On that note, though, it's all in that journey, and it sounds like part of this is, hey, I want to get to that next level. Is that sort of where the dream is now? Is let's see what we can do at the pro level, and let's see if we can become maybe the next Canadian to step foot behind the plate in an MLB game.
Yeah, it's definitely been a dream of mine. I tried chasing it last year. Unfortunately, didn't get selected, but that dream's not dead. So I'm going to take it 1 year at a time right now. I'm going to go to Williamsport this year and do my best and try and chase that pro dream again next year, right at the end of the season.
Absolutely. I remember asking Brent Radlinski this when we had him on the show a couple of years ago. And is there one call that haunts you? Maybe it's one that you got right, but you second guess all the time. Or you're like, man, I can't believe I got that one right. Or maybe on the flip side, it's one that you got wrong and you're just like, man, I can't believe I got that one wrong. Is there one that kind of sticks out in your eyes or sticks out in your mind that makes you go, man, things could have been a little bit different on that one?
There's a lot. I'd be lying if I said that didn't happen almost every game. Umpires aren't perfect. We try to be, but we're not. But I'd say, oof, there was one. I had a game in the Pioneer League this year where I had a little bit of a trigger. The situation happened where it could have been diffused by just calling time and talking to people individually, but I tossed some people, and that bit me real quick because a game went from 0 to 100, and I had to stay up till about 3:30 in the morning typing up reports. It was a little throwing incident. The ball got a little too close to the batter. Tensions were rising, and I pulled the trigger and tossed the pitcher. And then the benches cleared. It was not fun to deal with.
Those are the calls where you go, you got to act in the moment, right? And
Yeah.
deal with repercussions after the fact.
Yeah. And as Brent Radlinski says, one call is good, two calls is bad. But I made the one call and I had to stick with it. I can't revert back and have two calls. So I had to stick with my gut, right or wrong. We have to stick with it and eat it sometimes.
Absolutely. And to your point earlier, umpires are human beings, and that's one of the pieces that I want to bring about with this show is, hey, you know what, this is it's sometimes a thankless job, and this is an opportunity for us to thank the umpires as well for all they do, because we've got a couple of other guests coming up on the show a little later on as well. A couple more for you, Tyler, before we let you go. First off, and we ask this of the athletes too, is for those young kids or even those adults in your case who might want to be looking at being an umpire or an official, and they might be on the fence about it, or they might be thinking, having second thoughts about it. What's that one piece of advice or those words of wisdom that you want to impart upon them?
I'd say, honestly, just start umpiring. We are the only people in the game, at least in Alberta and Saskatchewan, we're the only people that get paid. And we get paid to have the best seat in the house for some of the best baseball in our area. It doesn't matter if you're working Little League, Baseball, Alberta, American Legion, or even if it's just a sandlot game. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what crest is on your shirt. The only thing that matters is that we have umpires. Because without umpires, it's just a practice. So I'd say if you're thinking about starting to umpire, reach out to the local people in your area and figure out how you can get into it.
Give it a
It's
shot.
a great way. Yeah. Like I paid for university umpiring. It's a great way to put some money in your pocket and have the best seats, the best game in the world.
Absolutely. And the other added bonus to it is that, hey, you know what you said, we've got a great base of baseball here. And especially with the Blue Jays bump coming up, there's going to be a lot of people, a lot of kids that are going to want in on the action. And we're going to need those umpires to make it all happen. So hopefully we see a few more get involved in the game that way. One final question for you, Tyler. It's one we ask everybody here on the show. What does the game of baseball mean to you?
It means everything to me right now, literally and figuratively. I mean, ever since starting my umpire career in Lethbridge, I have been thrown into it. I've become treasurer, assigner, umpiring anywhere like up to 180 games a year. But it's just, it means a lot to me because it doesn't matter what's going on in my life. Once I walk into that field, my mind is clear. I just know for the next 2 hours, I have to put my sole focus on this game, and it blocks all the rest of the exterior noise out. So it means a lot to me, actually.
I'm curious as this follow up to that one. I know I said last question, but it kind of
No, you're
brought
good.
this on here.
Yeah.
What's it mean to you to be able to give back to the game in this way? I mean, it's something that you grew up wanting to play. Here you are making an impact on it and having an impact on a game that a lot of kids are now chasing and looking at the dream and saying, "Hey, I want to do that one day as a player," and you have a direct impact on that.
Yeah, it makes me like I feel good about it. I teach Little League clinics in the Lethbridge area and Southern Alberta area, and I see these kids. All of them are players. They mostly come to the clinics just because their parents force them to. But I see them play the game they love, and I see their goals and aspirations. And then some of them are just like me, where their coach will pull them aside, say, "Hey, you're not good," and then I swoop in and say, "Hey, you can still stay in the game as an umpire." And just to, I don't know, I'm trying to help grow the game down here.
Mhm.
Sometimes it feels like I'm winning, sometimes it feels like I'm losing, but I just want to try and grow the game of baseball in Southern Alberta and expand that.
You
And
do.
find and tell kids that there's more to the game than just playing.
Tyler, congratulations on the call from Williamsport. Congratulations on all the success you've had as an umpire. Continued success as we head towards the 2026 season and beyond. And again, thanks so much for joining us here on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Next up is longtime umpire Rob Allan, who's also seen his share of big events over the years. I actually first ran into him at this winter's Western Canadian Baseball League AGM, where he made a presentation about some of the things he's been doing to make the crews better across the league. In short, hours upon hours of watching video, then providing feedback and guidance in real time. It's a passion of his, and I thought it'd be great to get into his mind a little bit for you in this conversation. Rob, thanks so much for joining us here on the show.
Thank you for having me.
We are just a couple of months away from the WCBL season, but I know the season for you starts much sooner than that. But before we get to that point, I do want to ask, how excited are you to get back out on the field?
I just can't wait for all this snow to melt so that we can get back out there and call balls and strikes and save some outs.
Mm-hmm. I had the pleasure of sitting in on your presentation to the WCBL AGM and found it so fascinating to hear the behind-the-scenes stuff of umpiring, because it's something that the average everyday Joe doesn't necessarily get to see. But it's a big reason why we wanted to have you on here as well. And one of my big takeaways is your passion for making it better. Making the game better from a fan perspective, but from an ump perspective, a team perspective. Walk me through your process when it comes to the mentoring side, because it seems to be something that you're very passionate about.
Yes, the mentoring side is definitely very passionate about, from just mentoring other umpires in the WCBL to even Baseball Alberta. We have an umpires academy that we kind of get for the young umpires or up and coming umpires that we work with. And then for the WCBL, the idea when I came on was to try to give guys evaluations and try to make them better, and the whole group of umpires in WCBL better was kind of the idea. So
you watch a lot of game tape, don't you?
Yeah, it got to the point last year where instead of watching Blue Jays games, I was watching WCBL games because if I wasn't on the field, I was watching the games as they went. Plus, then afterwards, what we did is we had a group of about 10 umpires that were video supervisors that I would assign games to, and they would go through those and kind of give me a report on, in this inning there's this, or in that inning take a look at this. So then I would look at their games as well, and then sometimes I was able to either just send them the written report, or I would actually do a video report for them and say, hey, show them video clips and that, so that they could see what I was talking about on certain plays or certain situations. So, I watched way too much, so much so that I didn't even realize the Blue Jays had started winning again. Because all I was watching in the spring there, from once the season started at the end of May till like August, was WCBL games, and then I realized, oh wow, the Blue Jays are doing quite well. I better start watching them again.
Mm-hmm. Walk me through some of the things that you're looking for when you're doing all this review and all these different games, whether it be at the WCBL level or even for some of those kids who are starting out doing the academy stuff. Like, what are you keeping an eye on? What are you really trying to focus on for them so that they can better their games?
Well, sometimes you just kind of go back to the basics. Like, say, for plate stance, we would look for making sure that they have proper head height, good timing, that they're in a good slot position, they can see the outside corner. On the bases, especially in the WCBL, we use 3-umpire system. So we're making sure that the coverages are correct and that guys are going to where they need to be on the bases. So it's a little bit different hand and plate and base, but yeah, it's a lot of focus, for at least in the WCBL, and 3-umpire system mechanics, because some of the guys don't get to do a lot of 3-umpire mechanics. They do 2-umpire through the year. And so understanding the 3-umpire system is important for the WCBL. And then, like I said, for the plates, just going back to the basics, especially if I see that maybe an umpire is say struggling through the game, just go back to the basics, make sure proper head height, proper timing, proper use of your eyes and stuff like that. So.
Mm-hmm. I found the conversation about the strike zone to be super fascinating during that AGM, because you have the managers who are pitchers and the managers who are hitters, and there's always that deciding factor of, is the plate too small for pitchers or is it too big for hitters, and vice versa. You brought up a really interesting point about how you call it when it's close, when it's on those edges. Walk me through what you're looking for as an umpire yourself, but also the advice that you're giving to the younger umpires about making those borderline calls and trying to be as consistent as you can.
So yeah, there's definitely like my philosophy is, like, there's a obvious strike, is really easy to call right down the middle. Obvious ball, the ones that are, miss the plate by a foot or whatever. It's the ones that are in that gray area. And I find at the amateur level, at least, we're not talking at the professional level, as they will get in trouble if they're 0.1 of an inch off, they're wrong, right? So we're not at that level. So my feeling and my philosophy that I try to teach is that if it's in that gray zone, try to call those strikes. Look for strikes. There was an umpire who I met when I was a young kid. His name is Jim Cressman, and he said to me at a clinic once, and Jim is umpired at the Olympics and professional baseball, and Jim said, if it could have been a strike, it probably should have been a strike. So really, those decision pitches at the amateur level, we want to be calling strikes. I'm not saying calling 3 or 4 inches off the plate a strike, but anything like within, if it's we're not really good enough yet at the amateur level to be able to say, oh yeah, that pitch was a 1/4 inch off the plate, that was a ball, right? Where maybe major league umpires at times are, right? So it's just one of those things where you get yourself, and especially as you go younger ages, if you're calling ball after ball after ball, it just makes your job harder. It's not any fun for the teams, and then the batters are just looking for walks, which is not the way baseball is supposed to be played or meant to be played, especially at the younger ages.
Mm-hmm. Love that philosophy. I'm curious, though, especially you kind of alluded to it. Hey, we're not at that level of Major League Baseball, but has that sort of skewed things a little bit from the mindset of whether it be the hitters or the coaches or that in your eyes in terms of that level of, I'll call it expectation of, hey, it's got to be a ball or it's got to be close. Like, has that changed sort of the relationship between umpires in your eyes?
And I definitely think ABS system and all these other things have really narrowed the strike zone, even at the amateur level.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely think guys do get in trouble at the amateur level if they do go too small of a strike zone, right? So I always just tell them, go up there looking for strikes. Don't be looking for calling balls. Look for calling strikes at the amateur level. But as you get to the higher level, you definitely have to dial that in a little bit more, almost to like a professional strike zone. Once you're getting up closer to WCBL or Div 1 college and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious, what would you say is maybe the biggest challenge or disconnect that you're running into right now between umps and players and coaches maybe, and maybe it's one that you want to get on the same page about right now?
So definitely on the plate, I think the outer half of the plate is traditionally sometimes at the amateur level been called a little bit more lenient in the strike zone. And we're definitely trying to bring that in closer to the outside part of the plate. It seems the inside part of the strike zone is called fairly consistently, but sometimes umpires go out and grab maybe outside pitches that start getting themselves in trouble. I guess, and then the other thing on pitches is, high and low pitches, they can see from the dugout. So if you start calling too many that are, just, above or below the knees you're calling strikes, you might get yourself in more trouble. And then on the bases, it's more about, I think, being in position, right? So if you're running into a place because you're late and then you're having to make a call on the run, you're often going to get yourself more of an argument because the manager sees that, hey, he had to come running in there late into that position. Of course, he got it wrong, right? So being in position, understanding the 3-umpire system, I think on the bases is very important to make sure that you're at your position in plenty of time to make your call, and then selling it, right? So.
As we head into the new WCBL season here, is there anything that you're hoping to get across to the umpiring crew this year? Things that you learned maybe from this last year, things that you want them to be all keeping in mind heading into the oncoming summer?
I think the main thing is, again, because a lot of the guys haven't done a ton of 3-umpire system, is getting them more comfortable with the 3-umpire system and making sure that they are ready and in the right position. Because as a crew, if you're working well together, it makes a world of difference on the field as opposed to even if just say one part of it, you're missing out one part of that and you're having troubles on, it makes the whole crew kind of look bad. So we want to work as a team together, make sure we're covering. And then when we do make mistakes, say we have missed coverages or something like that another umpire just steps in and umpires the situation to make sure that we do have an umpire covering that play. So I think that's the main thing I'm worried about is polishing up our 3-umpire system.
Not a bad spot to be in by far, because you could be working with 2 or 1. So really, Rob, I love getting into the background story as well. And so let's get into that for a little bit. How did you get into baseball in the first place, and maybe who introduced you to the game?
So I started umpiring when I was 10 years old. Basically, my dad started umpiring because he was he had just, he was the one dad that would show up on time, that they'd be like, hey, we need an umpire. And my dad would start umpiring. So he decided to get certified. And then a couple years after that, I was, a tall kid, big kid for my age. And so they're like, you'd make a good umpire. I don't know what that means, but that's what they said. And so I started umpiring and I just started doing games. And by the time I was, 13 years old, I was actually started out doing a fast pitch instead of baseball. and I was already doing adults as a 13-year-old. So at 15, I decided I wanted to umpire baseball as well. So I did baseball and softball when I was 15. And then by the time I was 17, I realized how much I was enjoying doing baseball more, and that I wanted to possibly get a career as a professional baseball umpire, and I wanted to go to professional umpire school. So I decided to switch just to baseball. And from basically when I was 17 on, I'd only umpired baseball. And I went to umpire school when I was 21, back a long time ago, and almost got a job as a minor league umpire. I was on the reserve list. They basically took 20 out of the school, and I was ranked number 21. So I just missed out on that. And but I have, come back, brought back the information and the knowledge that I got from going to umpire school, and went and did amateur ball. And I've done most levels of amateur ball, including some professional ball, with the Vancouver Canadians when I lived in Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
I would be their kind of fill-in umpire if one of their umpires couldn't make it over the border or got injured or whatever. So I did, over a span of about 8 or 9 years, I think I did about 30 Vancouver Canadians games, which were a lot of fun. Even had a little argument with John Schneider one time when he was managing the Canadians. So actually, it was a series with John Schneider and Pat Murphy.
Oh, and, wow.
That was, I think Pat Murphy was manager with Eugene Emeralds at the time. So that was quite the series to have to umpire. But and then I've done international baseball as well. So I've kind of come up through all possible, areas of umpiring that I wanted to do. And now I enjoy doing the WCBL here, and now that I've moved to Alberta.
Very cool. When you look back on it, do you have a favorite moment or memory on the field where you almost had to take that step back and go, okay, that's pretty cool?
So I umpired in the Pan American Games twice, both in 2011 in Guadalajara, Mexico, and 2015 in Toronto. And in both those opportunities, I got to umpire the semifinal game on the plate between Cuba and the United States on both those tournaments.
Very cool.
So that was quite, there was a catcher for Cuba who I did not necessarily get along with very well. His name was Ariel Pastano, and he was quite a handful to deal with as a plate umpire. But I did 2011 and 2015 Pan Am games with Cuba and United States games, which were quite intense.
I can only imagine. On the flip side, I ask this to the players all the time, and I'm curious from an umpiring perspective, what's been the biggest challenge or hurdle you've had to overcome during your time as an umpire that you're super proud that you were able to get over that and continue to forge your path in the game?
Well, I think as, I'm getting older now, trying to make sure that I'm still doing a good job out on the field, getting into the positions I need to get into, even though maybe I'm not as fast as I was. Not that I was ever that fast, but not as fast as I was younger. So just trying to make sure that I'm serving the game properly. And the day that maybe I'm not necessarily as good on the field as I should be, and maybe not getting into the plays, maybe I just stay on the supervising side instead. But just trying to maintain and make sure that I'm doing a proper job on the field and not just relying on my experience.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious, what does that mean to you to be able to give back to the game, not just from obviously the umpiring side and tutoring and mentoring on that side, but also being able to have an impact on the game itself and the players, and knowing that you can show them that can be a good relationship between player and umpire?
Well, I think right now that's kind of one of the things that makes me excited about staying involved in umpiring is the ability, because baseball's been very good to me. I've gotten to go lots of places and umpire lots of games, and so now I'm trying to do what I can to give back. So a couple things, like obviously through WCBL and trying to mentor umpires along to become better umpires at a higher level, right? But also at the lower levels with the Umpire Academy we started 3 years ago with Baseball Alberta, so the Baseball Alberta Umpire Academy, and we kind of are looking for those next kids that are up and coming umpires that maybe wouldn't even be recognized. They're just doing their local community ball, and they apply for academy, they get accepted, and we take them through 3 different events in the first year, and we run little mini umpire school, and so I get a great joy from doing that. Probably more than actually umpiring now. And just seeing these guys kind of, even from one weekend where they came in on Friday, not knowing what, calling some balls and strikes before, but not really knowing what they're doing. And then we take them in the cage, work on their stance. We do field stuff with them. We do classroom work. Plus they do live games, and then just watching them from the Friday to the Sunday, the difference in their ability on the field and their confidence on the field is kind of what gets me excited now and why I still stay involved. So,
well, it's having an impact too, right? As far as what you're starting to see some more people signing up and that kind of stuff. And we're certainly going to need more of them going forward, especially with the Blue Jays bump and everything else going on in the baseball world now. And I'm curious, I got a couple more for you, is especially for those young people, or maybe their parents or grandparents, and they want to have an impact on the game at the umpiring level. What's that one piece of advice or those words of wisdom you'd love to impart upon them to maybe push them over the edge to go, hey, give umpiring a shot?
Well, I think a couple things. Like, yes, and if you have a child or a grandchild or whatever that express even a little bit of interest, just the people skills that it gives them, dealing with adults and dealing with other players, and the people skills that you get from umpiring is so beneficial in anything that you do in life. But then also on the other side of that is, as parents or grandparents that are watching the game and they're not happy with the umpire that's making that call, that young umpire, just remember that they are learning too, just like your son or grandson is at playing shortstop, right? So they're going to make mistakes. We all make mistakes, even at the professional or major league level. But just try your best to just remember that, and that that's the only way we can develop these umpires, is maybe even putting in some games where, they're, because of the shortage of umpires, that they're actually maybe not quite ready for. And if you kind of, as a parent or grandparent, end up, yelling and screaming at this umpire, this person might say, you know what, I might be just better off working at McDonald's and not getting yelled at, right? So it's just a kind of balance of yes, I know you're not happy with the umpire's call, but just remember that these umpires are all learning, right? So
we're all human, all make mistakes, and it's bound to happen at some point or another, and nobody's out to get anybody by any stretch either. So love both of those pieces.
They say in umpiring is your first day you have to be perfect, and then you just get better from there, right? So
I, as somebody who tries to be perfect every day, yeah, it ain't happening, but it's a nice try for sure. Rob, one final question. It's one we ask everybody here on the show. What does the game of baseball mean to you?
Well, you can ask my family. It means I spend many, many hours, even in the off season, just doing baseball stuff, whether I volunteer with Baseball Canada, Baseball Alberta, the WCBL. So baseball for me is pretty much, I would say, a good 60 or 70% of my life, and it always has been, and it probably always will be. So yeah, it's just, I can't say enough of what it's given to me, the enjoyment that I've had, and I just go out and enjoy working the games, or like I say, enjoy watching other umpires and see if we can make them better. So,
well, we've enjoyed getting a little bit of a snapshot into the art of umpiring through your eyes, Rob. Again, congratulations on all the success you've had to this point. Continued success as we head towards the 2026 season and beyond. And again, thanks so much for joining us here on the show.
No problem. Thank you very much.
And we'll wrap things up this week with Baseball Alberta umpire supervisor Brandon Strocki. An umpire himself, he's getting himself ready for what promises to be a busy baseball season, made even busier with the Blue Jays bump. With more players comes more teams, and more teams means a bigger need for the boys in blue. Strocki is feeling comfortable with where they're at now, but would love to see a few more baseball enthusiasts and even former players take a shot at standing behind the plate and around the bases. Brandon, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for joining us.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Another season is upon us. How are we looking, first off, for uptake for the upcoming season?
Yeah, for umpires, for baseball Alberta, we're laughing right now. We've had a record number of clinics applied for, to the point where we actually had to kind of cap our clinics for a bit here to see our instructor availability. We only have so many instructors in our province that can teach clinics, and so we're happy that we're pretty maxed out at this point. So compared to 2025, I think we're at 5 more clinics than what we had last year. So that's a good sign. We'll see how those clinics fill up in terms of registration numbers. But early indicators say that we're on for a good season this year in terms of registration numbers.
And obviously a lot of interest around the game as well. The Blue Jays bump is apparently very real, according to some early indicators, at least in my world. I mean, how much of an impact do you see that being on your needs heading into this season?
Yeah, we kind of found the same thing in 2015 when the Jays made their run there, that there was certainly a correlation between what the Blue Jays are doing in baseball across our province. And certainly what that just means is as players increase, the number of teams will increase. And therefore, the need for officials, the number of officials will need to increase as well. And so that's big. That's something that we are definitely cognizant of, and that's why our willingness to continue to add as many clinics as we can possibly take on is there, because we know that we're going to need to provide umpires for all these teams and players that are going to be new to baseball.
Mm-hmm. So let's get into the application process a little bit for a second here. For those who might be on the fence about it or wondering if it might be for them or not, what are you looking for from an ideal umpiring candidate?
Yeah, it's one of those things that we've talked about lots. The ideal candidate is anybody that's 12 years of age or older. That's kind of our minimum set age requirement, and after that, it's pretty open. We've had first-year umpires that have come from huge playing or coaching backgrounds in the past to umpires who honestly don't really know much about the game, and so that's interesting for them. And the way our programming is set up, our clinic system is set up, is that we kind of cater to all of the above. And so if your experience is vast, then great. You're probably going to fly through the level 1 and want to jump into level 2 probably the next year. Maybe you're just quite happy being level 1 and just learning kind of the basics, still kind of catching up on your baseball knowledge at the same time. So after the age requirement, there isn't really much in terms of what we ask for. The more ideal candidates that we would love to have are those that are dedicated and willing to be able to commit, whether that's to their local house league or to the province. And that just means that we know that players make really good umpires. That's a known fact. But we also know that players have limited availability to umpire on very few off nights. And so we often find players or umpires that were former players often seem to work out the best, or maybe umpires that play but maybe at a reduced playing commitment, and that allows them to umpire a little bit more. That's probably our ideal candidates. The other ones that we really like to see and that seem to do quite well is old people who have been in the game maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago and have taken a break and are excited to come back. So that's another good clientele demographic that we try to hit up as well. Mm-hmm. Male, female, doesn't matter. That's another one. So we're trying to increase our female umpire numbers in the province, and trying to do some programming around that as well in the future. So yeah.
I know you've made quite a good headway when it comes to different training and programs to keep the folks engaged and learning, so retention stays solid as well. Give us a bit of the 411 on some of those opportunities that you've been trying to make available for those who are wanting to not just get in at the ground level, but also stay with it for a while.
Yeah, so one of the really exciting new initiatives that we ran, this will be its third season in Alberta, is the Baseball Alberta Umpire Academy. And so this is a select group. It's got a little bit of a narrow focus, but our payoff has been huge so far, where we're taking anywhere between 8 to 12 candidates per year to enter in, and it's through an application process. And again, we're looking for umpires now that have had at least a year of experience, at least 16 years old, just to kind of have a groundwork that we can start from. And then we are putting them through 2 to 3 events throughout the summer of really intense umpire training. So the first one is often in start of June. We see them and we work with them on the field. They do live games. They get then off field instruction as well. We have some of our best instructors working with them throughout that weekend. Then they often go to a provincial championship where they just work games and get some feedback off the field. And then we have them come to one of the events that Baseball Alberta puts on, like the Rawlings Cup at the end of August, which again, they're getting bullpen training, they're getting field work, they're getting live games as well, all at the same time. And so it's what like a clinic, but a little bit more advanced and a little bit more intense. And we've had tremendous results coming out of that with the people that have gone through it, their advancement and their ability to move from level to level, or just their skills have just gotten tremendously better throughout their season. And so we've actually been able to put last year our first Umpire Academy graduate to a national championship, which is kind of every umpire's ultimate goal, is to be able to attend a Baseball Canada National Championship. And so our first Umpire Academy graduate went to one last year. So we're excited about that.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of cool, too, in the sense that you get to see the game at a different level and get to travel all these different places that, as a player, you kind of dream of going to a Canada Cup or go to a national championship or whatever the case may be. Like, this is a way for some of those, especially the players who have maybe aged out or don't see a path of playing per se, but now they've got that opportunity to keep giving back to the game as well.
I talk about that a lot. I had the fortunate opportunity to go to a senior men's national championship as a player. That was the only national championship I ever attended as a player. And as an umpire, I've been to 7 or 8 now, and 2 as a supervisor. So the provinces I think that I've been able to do baseball in kind of range. I think I'm only missing 1 or 2 now in all of Canada. So yeah, there's definitely opportunities for travel and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
As someone who's been around the game for as long as you've been, how gratifying is it to give back to the game in this way? And not just from an umpiring perspective, but obviously from that mentoring and organizing perspective, and make sure that games are happening at the grassroots level, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I think the grassroots is a big piece. We have everybody wants to do the high performance baseball, and there's certainly some really good baseball in our province and opportunities to do that. But I think when we look at the overall bulk of what baseball is in our province, our commitment to the grassroots is super important. And so to be able to kind of see not just like, I guess coaches probably have the exact same feeling as from their players as they move on, but to see our umpires start off as level ones in local communities and then slowly advance and go to the next level and the next level, and then all of a sudden you see them at a national championship or in an evaluation clinic, and you go, wow, that umpire's career's really advanced. And I've been fortunate enough to be a part of a couple, mentorship groups that have mentored some young umpires, and now they're in their, late 30s or early 30s. And we're excited to see how their careers have progressed. No different than umpires did that for me. And so I think there's definitely something about giving back to the grassroots, and because that's where we all start at some point. And I think that's really important that we continue to focus on mentorship to bring umpires along.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of the journey, let's talk a little about yours in particular. How did you get into baseball in the first place, and maybe who introduced you to the game?
Yeah, I probably was a t-ball player. My dad was the executive director of Baseball Alberta in 94, 95, a little bit of 96 there as well. And I think so he started me off when I was 4 years old in t-ball, and I kept playing my whole way through 18U, and then on and played senior baseball in Sunburst League as well. And then kind of after the national championship in 2013, I decided to focus solely on umpiring, and that was kind of the transition. But I had been umpiring since I was, I think, 12 years old. I took my first clinic in Stony Plain and kind of always umpired throughout. So, yeah.
What was it about the umpiring side that made you go, I want to chase that, versus a lot of guys now, they see the next future wave as being, hey, I got to get into coaching?
Yeah, I don't know what. That's a great question, actually. A lot of people have asked me that, and I question that about some of our other good players that we've gotten the bug in them about umpiring, and what would make them what would convince them to follow umpiring versus coaching. I think I was involved in coaching basketball, high school basketball and junior high basketball. I just wanted something a little bit different, and certainly when I was younger, it was about making money. That was a big piece of it, and then I think I just fell in love with the different perspective of the game, and I caught a little bit as a player, and so always having good rapport with umpires is a big piece, and kind of the fraternity too that we have as a group of umpires is huge, and met a lot of really good lifetime friends through umpiring, and so I think that was something I wanted to continue doing.
Mm-hmm. When you look back on the young career to this point, any favorite memories or moments where you had to take that step back and go, okay, this is pretty cool, I never would have expected this out of the umpiring world?
Yeah, for sure. So many. Probably most recently last year, doing the Blue Jay Showcase Academy in Rogers Center there in Toronto. That was super cool. You walk off the field for the first time, I guess, walk onto the field and you go, holy smokes, this is pretty cool. And then when it's the last game, you might not ever get an opportunity like that. And there's not too many umpires that do get that opportunity. So you take a chance to just kind of take it all in and go, yeah, this was pretty neat. Couple senior men's national championships have been awesome to work. Canada Games in Winnipeg, that was really neat to work at the Goldeye Stadium. And then a couple opportunities locally too that we've had with some of the college summer college baseball teams, whether it's been the Riverhawks or the Edmonton Prospects in the past. There's been some pretty neat opportunities to work playoff games and things like that as well for them.
When you go back to the showcase for a minute, just because I've got it on my bucket list of things that I want to go see and do in the baseball world at some point down the line, but especially as somebody who gets to see the talent up close and personal like that, how would you grade the talent that you get to see out there? Because there's been some real players out of this country in the last few years.
Yeah, it was awesome. Funny to talk about that. We were working first base. I was working first base one night and didn't really know a ton of the names per se, but the kid was warming up on the mound, left-handed pitcher, and you could say, okay, he's got a little bit of pop. And the first base coach came to me and said, like, this is the guy, like this is the face of the tournament. Turns out I think the guy's been committed to Vanderbilt University for a couple of years, and I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but yeah, and you go back and see kind of all the names that were on the roster and you go, oh, this guy's a commit, this guy's projected to be a draft pick in the first couple rounds. Okay, like big time talent for sure, and you get to share the field with them. That was pretty neat.
Absolutely. Out of curiosity as well, we talk a lot about the failures of the game or the challenges of the game, because baseball is a game of failure. What's been the biggest challenge or hurdle you've had to overcome in your umpiring journey that you're really proud of yourself for being able to kind of push through?
That's a good question. I think two things. I take a lot of pride in what I've done on the field for sure, and I think managing playing all those years and still maintaining the ability to umpire and stick with it, I think that was really important. I think just trying to also manage life and still be super passionate about umpiring, that's very difficult to do, and I'm sure there's just other sacrifices that I've made and areas of my life maybe that I've neglected to make sure that umpiring stayed a priority. But certainly also very proud of the kind of the work that not only myself, but the whole umpire committee's done in the time that I've been provincial supervisor, and kind of our growth. And I don't know if that's organic or natural, or if it's some little policy decisions that we've made that have maybe enticed umpire growth and our work with Baseball Alberta. It's just been really nice to see how umpiring has come in literally, less than a decade, 8 years. I think I've been doing this, and how our numbers have exploded. And kind of I think we're at I've talked about this before, where we're at a point right now where I think the new generation of what umpiring in our province is going to look like, we're just on the cusp of that. We're kind of finishing out a kind of a time period where it was all about growth and numbers, and now we're kind of like embarking on the new frontier, if I can to say that. And so I'm excited about that as well, to see what the future is going to hold, because I think there's a lot of new opportunities. Things like this academy is just one instance of some new things that I think we can really kind of create here in our province to help develop umpires.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that for a second, because you and I were talking off air about sort of the idea of especially the retention side, and there's a lot of guys and gals who will maybe sign up or that kind of stuff, but it's about keeping them along and being able to maybe allow them the bandwidth to be able to do a little bit more, or to expand their horizons a little bit. Walk us through sort of the mindset of that next generation, I guess, of Baseball Alberta umpiring, and what you'd like to see so that it goes from a sheer numbers game to a numbers and quality game.
Yeah, for sure. I think level one, if you were to go through, it's really based for grassroots umpiring. That's what we've done it, so that an umpire can feel comfortable doing 11 and 13U baseball in their local house league. And then we really want to get them at least into a level 2 program, where now they feel comfortable doing some AA baseball at those same age groups, maybe some 15U AA. And then our level 3 program is where we really want our umpires that are going to be working at the AAA level to be at. And so the more we can advance these umpires, the more opportunities that are going to be provided to them. And our training is great throughout, but our training really seems to get more interesting, more intense as they continue on with the levels, to culminating in our super clinic level 4-5 weekend every year, which is a full 2-day event with a banquet and some award ceremony stuff, and it's a really good time with kind of the top 60 umpires in our province, and we encourage all of our umpires that should be hopefully their goal to reach, and that opens the doors to basically every level of baseball in the province. So I think that's part of the retention piece, is to show that there's opportunities. I think the things like the academy is really important, that we can help these umpires get really high level training really early on in their careers and advance them along. I think we're, like I talked about briefly, trying to develop some female development programming. That's kind of the next step for us. I think that's huge. I think there's some areas in which we can work with that older population that's maybe been out of the game for a little bit, but used to have a ton of playing or coaching experience, that we can do some sort of an accelerated program with them. I think there's cross collaboration between all the different entities that are in the province of Alberta for umpiring. I think that there's an opportunity. There's just a lot that we're going to try to provide in the next few years. At least that's what I think of the new frontier being, that really encourages umpires to want to stick with it and provide them with new opportunities throughout their careers.
Mm-hmm. So let's open that door a little bit. A couple more questions for you. First off,
yeah, you bet.
For those young kids or maybe those adults who are looking to become an ump or an official for the first time, what's that one piece of advice or those words of wisdom you'd love to impart upon them?
Yeah, I think stick with it. I think that there is so many life skills that get taught from officiating, not just baseball and umpiring, but just officiating in general. And so if that's a young 12, 13-year-old, I think there's a lot of things in terms of, body language and conflict resolution, all different skills that can be applied through life, that if they stick with it and they don't get discouraged over, tough situations where they're maybe in an intense game and the pressure gets to them, they should relish in that, just like players should relish in those opportunities and those moments. I think umpires, there's so much that they can get out of umpiring if they're willing to continue to put into. And I think that's the biggest thing. What you put into this, you'll certainly reap and sow the benefits of down the road for sure.
Love that for sure. And the final question we ask everybody here on the show, Brandon, what's game of baseball mean to you?
A lot. It means a lot. I've talked about this with people, and I'm trying to, as I age a little bit, trying to really not tie my identity to the game. I think that's probably healthy. That umpiring and baseball is something I do, not who I am. But I'd be lying if I said that for a large majority of my life that is exactly what baseball's been. I'm a baseball guy. When I went to a job interview for the first time, I had a bunch of baseball stuff on my resume. It was like, baseball's a huge part of my life. This is what I've done. I've either played or umpired since I was 4 years old. I think I've been a Baseball Alberta member ever since, without a year. So it's just there's a ton that baseball has given me, and therefore it's been a huge part of my life. It's the friends that I've made along the way. It's the opportunities that I've been given and fortunate for. And now it's definitely time to repay that forward for sure for other people to have those same opportunities and gain the same benefits that I did from the game for them, for somebody else. Because I think like I said, I think the game gives you back what you put into it. And so I hope that we can give other umpires the same opportunities that I had for sure.
Well, that's certainly been something of a theme that we've developed over the course of this program and through this interview as well. Brandon, really appreciate you taking a few minutes to dive into the world of umpiring in Alberta. Best of luck as we head towards the new season, and thanks so much for joining us here on the show.
Right on. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Thanks again to Tyler Malaka, Rob Allan, and Brandon Strocki for joining us this week. And thanks to all of you for downloading and listening. A special tip of the cap to all of the umpires, officials, and volunteers who thanklessly do their jobs and don't get a ton of attention. We truly appreciate it and the opportunity to showcase what you do. As always, we're very fortunate to have our Platinum supporters on board to help us tell the game stories. The Okotoks Dogs, Under the Lights Sports and Entertainment, and the Western Canadian Baseball League have been outstanding in helping us cover costs like web hosting fees and online newspaper subscriptions, among many others. Make sure to check them out at albertadugoutstories.com/supporters. Until next time, thank you for all of your support online, on social, and on air of Alberta Dugout Stories.